Good afternoon and welcome. My name is Heidi Stacy and I'm a third-year law student, president of the Black Law Students Association. I'm pleased to bring you greetings from the law school community and our interim dean, Eric Leidy. Universities exist to spark creativity, incubate solutions, and to stimulate an exchange of ideas among thoughtful, engaged, and caring communities. The law school is proud to host this forum and to be engaged in this endeavor. My hope is that this panel discussion will be a springboard for future discussions and the exchange of ideas. My hope is that we can share perspectives, listen to one another more than we listen to television pundits, and contemplate our future as a community. Again, I welcome you here to OCU Law School. Thank you.
Greetings, everyone. I'm so excited to see everyone in the audience. My name is Bailey Perkins. I'm the interim president of the National Association of Advancement of Colored People, OCU chapter. We're in the process of chartering that organization this year, and I'm so very excited. I'm also a member of the Pi Sigma Alpha National Art Society, as well as a political science industry senior here at OCU. I want to first take the opportunity to thank all those who sponsored this event. The Political Science Department, the Black Law Student Association, the NAACP, Multicultural Student Affairs, and then our OCU community. We want to thank everyone for their support. I also want to take this time to recognize the new officers at NAACP who are charting this organization. They've been working extremely hard to make sure that we can put the forum together as well. We have my Vice President, Ms. Azia Antoine, in the audience. We have the Secretary, Isaiah Bailey. I also ask that we please be respectful and mindful because this is a controversial topic, so we want to make sure that this is a community where everyone can freely speak their minds and opinions, and we want to respect those. We also have a portion where we have audience questions. So if you do have a question, please write them on the note cards provided. If you do not have a note card, please see one of the three that were just recognized in the front, and we'll make sure that you get your note card. Also, whenever you're ready to ask your question or your question is finished, just kind of wave it in the air and we'll come by and pick it up before that portion of the program. We also have snacks and drinks, so if anyone's thirsty or wants anything, feel free to step over there to the left or my left, your right, and have snacks as well. And also, we are taping this program. Thank you to our campus technology and KR Vineyard for making sure that this opportunity can be filmed. If anybody wants a copy, please reference your program and it'll be on the back of your program. So now I'd like to take this opportunity to bring up my Vice President, Ms. Azia Antoine, to recognize our special guest. Thank you.
Again, welcome everyone. Thank you for coming to our first event, our first NAACP OCU chapter event. Special guests that I want to recognize, we have Jenna Harkins. She's a community activist. We have Tom Gill, who is justice in the Brennan Society, also a possible candidate for Congress in the 5th District. We have Garland Pruitt, who is the president of the NAACP state chapter. Local chapter, I'm so sorry, local chapter. We have Dean Davies, who is the dean of Peachtree College Arts and Sciences. And also Dr. Johnson, who's the assistant dean of Peachtree College Arts and Sciences and the chairman of political science. Star Bradford, who is the senior counselor of international admissions and our advisor of the NAACP OCU chapter. Connie Johnson, who is the Oklahoma Senator of District 48. I also want to recognize Anthony Douglas, who is our president of the Oklahoma State University, and Ryan Kiesel, who is the executive director of ACLU. Thank you, everyone. Those are our special guests.
Good afternoon. My name is Danae Johnson. I'm a professor of law here at Oklahoma City University, and my task today is to be the moderator of the panel. With that task, I've been given some very specific instructions. This is a highly organized forum, and so I'll be following those instructions. I believe there's a timekeeper who will be on the front row, and we're going to start off with a question to all of our panelists. Each panel person will have 3 minutes to answer the first question. I've been told we're not going to do formal introductions, but I'd like each panel to start with their name and their affiliation, maybe memberships and things they would like us to know. But a more detailed biography of each panelist is noted in your program, and you can keep that for reference. So I think the intent is for us to begin right off so that we can spend the maximum amount of time engaging one another. The first question that we'd like to ask to the panel is, would you define affirmative action? And I think we'll start with Professor Johnson.
Sure, is that part of my 3 minutes?
Your introduction is not a part of your 3 minutes. So tell us a little bit about who you are, where you come from.
My name is Jonathan Linder. I got my master's and PhD in economics from Purdue University. I am department chair of economics and finance at OCU. I teach a variety of courses. My favorite one being game theory. Right now, a bunch of my statistics students here, because I'm supposed to be in that class in about 20 minutes, and I'm not going to make it.
All right, now I'm going to ask you to answer the question. Can you define affirmative action?
To me, affirmative action is a government policy that requires some entities in some situations to provide opportunity based on profiles such as race or gender that would not otherwise be considered.
Very good. Senator Johnson, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? And then handle that question as well.
Absolutely. I'm Rob Johnson. I'm a state senator from District 22, and I wanted to first thank everybody for hosting this, especially not only Oklahoma City University, but all of the sponsors, and I'm glad that you guys are getting this together. I was elected to the state senate sworn in last November. This is my first term. I served in the state house for 4 years prior to that. Graduated from Oklahoma State University undergrad and then University of Oklahoma Law School.
Very good. Would you please define affirmative action?
I don't know that I can do it as quickly as he did, so I might take more time.
You can use the whole 3 minutes.
Oh, okay, good. Sometimes you have to cut politicians off. I'll be watching for the time. But affirmative action is obviously a complex issue and sometimes a very controversial issue. When I talk about what affirmative action is and what it means to me, I go back to the origins of where it first came up, and that was by President John F. Kennedy. And back in March of 1961, he offered an executive order which stated that affirmative action must be taken to ensure that applicants are employed and that employees are treated during employment without regard to their race, creed, color, or national origin. That is where the first time that concept ever came up. And to me, that message was pretty simple. President Kennedy was saying that we need to treat all people equally without regard to their race. And that's what I think the concept was. That obviously, shortly after that, in 1964, Congress passed the Civil Rights Initiative, or the Civil Rights Act. And during the debate, Senator Hubert Humphrey on the floor gave a very passionate speech on the Civil Rights Act. And one of the statements he made was that he said, if it was passed, it would prohibit preferential treatment for any particular group. And I think that was the intent at the time. Obviously, that was a bad time in our history, and we had to correct it. And these programs were developed to make sure everyone was treated equally. The problem is a lot of times now, a lot of these affirmative action programs that they've become today actually are opposite of the intent of what affirmative action was meant to be created. Because instead of having us be a colorblind society, they actually are basing things based on someone's color or someone's race. So I think affirmative action, it's not as easy to say what does it mean, because it has kind of morphed into something different than what it was intended to do. I think the intent of it is so that we treat everyone equal and that we do have a colorblind society, and that's actually what I'm trying to promote. I think we've kind of gotten away from that, and a lot of times our government actually tends to base things based on either the color of someone's skin or their gender. And I don't think as a government we should be doing that.
Very good, thank you. Ms. Cox?
Happy Constitution Day, everyone. My name is Tamaya Cox. I'm the Deputy Director of the ACLU of Oklahoma. I'm a proud graduate of Oklahoma State University and a proud graduate of OCU School of Law. The ACLU has always been and will continue to be a huge supporter of affirmative action. In our view, affirmative action, the definition of affirmative action is simply any measure that considers gender, race, disability, or veteran status that is adopted to provide opportunities to qualified individuals who have historically been denied opportunities and to prevent the future reoccurrence. I wish I could take credit for that definition, but that definition actually comes straight out of the Office of Civil Rights. I think the key components of that definition that we should all remember is that it's about opportunities, not outcomes. It's about qualified individuals given the opportunity that not only has been denied in the past, but to prevent future reoccurrences. Affirmative action, the definition for me is easy.
This very negative, punitive piece is the way to do it.
The easy answer is, I don't know. I don't know when we're not going to ever be in need of affirmative action or equal opportunity programs. What I do hope is that whenever that time comes, that these laws that are implemented, that are in place, will evolve into being more inclusive, to creating more diversity, that will evolve into change, and the language will evolve into something that we can all be proud of. So whenever that happens, I hope it's soon, but I hope that these laws are still on the books, but we have evolved as a society to understand the importance of affirmative action, where it brought us. One thing that we failed to mention is affirmative action grew the middle class. The U.S. labor statistics show that white women have benefited more from affirmative action programs than other people. So so again, when is the deadline? When will we not need it? I don't know, but I just hope that the laws continue and evolve into something better.
I have no clue, which is what I've been trying to figure out, because every time this comes up, people say, well, we're not there yet, and I don't disagree. And the 100-year statement was the first time anybody's put a figure on it to me on about how long it will take to end. So I have no idea, and I know he wasn't stating specifically 100 years. But, you know, John F. Kennedy issued his executive order and brought this topic up 50 years ago, this last spring. It's been 50 years, it's going to take another 50 years, it's going to take another 100 years, I don't know. My point is, and I keep going back to what Chief Justice Roberts said, the only way to stop discrimination based on race is to stop discriminating based on race. And we can't get there unless we as a state start leading by example and stop having preferences and stop discriminating based just strictly on the color of someone's skin or on their gender. Until we do that, I think it perpetuates the system, and I think that we'll never do it.
Dr. Little, can you walk us through that math you did?
I asked a couple of people in the audience, especially giving that accountability. Interesting that I have to respectfully disagree with the mayor. Oklahoma's not at the bottom of all this. We're at the top of the list in divorce rate, infant mortality. My bias, I'm not from here, we're in the Buckler Bible Belt. It's also one of the most heavily conservative religious Christian states in the Union. Not that those two go together, mind you, but anyway, I don't really see an end to human races and sexism coming because we're human. We look to find an identifier as quickly as possible. It's a matter of safety. Looks familiar, part of my tribe, say it. So we have some inherent behaviors on that. We try to typify what this person looks like. They'd be able to do that. So when I see somebody who's 6'10", very broad at the shoulder, narrow at the hip, I tend to think he's probably a damn good football player, probably not so good at being a plumber because you've got to get in small spaces. So we naturally do that. So I think part of what we're trying to do as humanity is move off of that instinctive behavior to get more cooperative behavior, which is what gets economic growth, longer lifespans, better food quality, better health when you're alive, that sort of thing. But we have to overcome that instinct, and not everybody is as good at it as everybody else, and maybe our laws are designed to do that. I also, you keep referencing John Roberts and his decisions. I'd like to point out that he's a lawyer, he's an expert at the law. That doesn't make him anything close to being a social scientist or a psychologist or sociologist. He studies the law much better than human behavior. So I teach a course in that. It's called Government and Business. I know what the laws are. We look at the intent. That's what people write about, the intent. So how does it work when it's implemented? And what's fascinating is how sometimes it's not only a failure, the results are predictably and in practice diametrically opposed to what the law says. So the idea of getting rid of the affirmative action being the only way to get rid of racism, no, affirmative action doesn't necessarily entrench it, it doesn't remove it, it's simply continuation of human behavior.
I'm going to give the last word to Mayor Guerrero.
In discussing this issue, I've had several detailed discussions with my brother, who just retired as the Director of Diversity Programs for GE at corporate headquarters. And it's interesting that corporate America has been able to implement all kinds of effective inclusion programs. Call them affirmative action of whatever name you want to put on them, in their purchasing, in their hiring, in their giving. All of those programs from corporate America have been supportive of segments of the population who have less access, less opportunity, in order to help raise the boat for everyone. And so it just amazes me that in this time that the state of Oklahoma would be proposing to go backwards. That's the way I see this, that Oklahoma wants to go backwards and not do things that are positive that will help so many people in Oklahoma, because Oklahoma in essence is a poor state. And we have a lot of people in need and a lot of people struggling in business and in work and all of the areas, and to help amending the constitution of our state to put some more punitive language says Oklahoma doesn't want to help anybody. You float on your own. You should be able to do it by yourself. And that's not the reality.
Amen.
Now, Dr. Lord, you got something to say?
Yeah, the recently retired president of PepsiCo put affirmative action into place in PepsiCo. His decision was if his white male managers couldn't find African-American, female, and other people who were qualified to go to the top, then the problem was with the white male manager, and he fired them in droves. And PepsiCo's performance has gone up, their ability to operate internationally has improved dramatically. The problem was the people that were entrenched in that system could not shake their bias, so he got rid of them. There's now an Indian woman in charge of PepsiCo.
I wanted to applaud. We have just a few remarks before it's all over, so we're closing it up.
Again, on behalf of the law school and our dean, our interim dean, Eric Lady, I want to thank the OCU chapter and the NAACP for allowing the law school to have this event, and also on behalf of the Black Law Student Association, I just want to thank Bailey and NAACP for allowing us to be a part of it.
Well, first of all, I wanted to recognize a few faces I wasn't able to recognize during the recognition of special guests. We have Nathaniel Bouchelder, who is like the chairman of the Peace House, so we thank you for having you. We have the state president of NAACP, Mr. Anthony Douglas. Representative Mike Shelton, I think he's headed over there. Thank you for coming. We appreciate you. And Senator Connie Johnson, we thank you as well for being here. But I also want to just take this opportunity to thank each and every one of you for being in the audience. If you want to take snacks with you, please do so. We really want you to take those. Also, our NAACP chapter is still in the process of chartering, so if you do want to help us and donate to NAACP, my contact information is on the back of the program. And also, if you want a copy of today's forum, and I thank all the panelists for being here. You guys made it a wonderful forum. And our vineyards information is at the bottom. And one last thank you to our wonderful moderators who did an amazing job. Thank you, and we hope you all have a great day.